Imagine that every time you receive your salary, two doors open before you. The first is the door of consumption. New clothes you didn't need, that expensive dinner just to impress, the phone that still works but you replace with a more modern model. It's a shiny door, full of flashy shop windows, but in practice, it only ties you even more to the next paycheck. Each purchase of this type is like adding another link to the chain that keeps you trapped in living paycheck to paycheck. Into the second door is that of freedom. It's not as flashy at first glance because it requires discipline and patience. But when you cross it, you find investments, assets, choices that seem small today, but gradually build a life where you no longer depend on working until the last day to pay bills. Buying a book that expands your mind, investing a small amount in an asset that grows over time, or simply saving part of what you earn before spending. These are the decisions that pave the way to true independence. Therefore, before spending any amount, ask yourself a simple and powerful question. Does this decision bring me closer to or farther from my financial freedom? This question alone changes the course of your life. Many realize too late that they spent years feeding the door of consumption, accumulating objects, but not building wealth. Wisdom lies in realizing that salary is not just for paying bills or satisfying immediate desires, but a tool to open the door of freedom. Few people realize it, but true financial security doesn't come from how much you earn, but from what you consistently save. This is where the idea of the invisible reserve comes in. Think of it as a secret safe that no one sees and that you yourself avoid touching. You don't need to start with high amounts. The important thing is that it's constant, month after month. This reserve has a powerful role. It's like a cushion that softens any unexpected fall. Imagine losing your job, having a medical expense, or facing an emergency. Those who don't have a reserve panic make hasty decisions, take expensive loans, and end up sinking even deeper. But those who have this invisible cushion take a deep breath, stay calm, and remain in control, because they know they have something to lean on. Additionally, this reserve gives freedom to make choices with less fear. You can wait for the right moment to invest, negotiate better on a purchase, or even refuse a job that's not worth it. The tranquility it brings is priceless because it eliminates the feeling of always being one step away from desperation. Therefore, create your reserve as a habit. It can be 5%, 10% of your salary, whatever is possible. But treat this amount as untouchable, part of a commitment to yourself. Remember, it's not the size that matters at the beginning, but the discipline. Over time, this small, invisible safe transforms into a silent fortress, protecting you and your family. Money can buy many things, but there's one that's incomparable: time. And in fact, time is the most valuable asset we have. While most people use their salary only to acquire objects, those who understand financial freedom learn to use part of what they earn to free hours from their own lives. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself without energy, busy with tasks that don't add anything important? Cleaning, small services, unnecessary back and forth trips. All these things steal time that could be invested in learning, resting, being with family, or even planning the future. When you allocate part of your salary to delegate or automate these tasks, you're buying back something priceless: control over your days. Buying time also means investing in knowledge that shortens paths. A well-chosen course, for example, can prevent you from spending years making mistakes that someone has already made and organized in the form of teaching. Books, mentorships, training, all of this accelerates your trajectory and gives you an advantage over those who insist on learning only through trial and error. Another important point is that buying time isn't luxury. It's strategy. Think of someone who works 10, 12 hours a day without pause. This person might even earn well, but if they don't have time for themselves, they live in an invisible prison. True luxury isn't having a house full of expensive objects, but being able to have a peaceful breakfast, travel when you want, or be present in the moments that really matter. And here's the great lesson. When you buy time, you create space to create new sources of income, to take care of your health, to live fully, because in the end, it's not what you accumulate that defines the quality of your life, but how you choose to use the time you have. If there's an investment that never loses value, that investment is knowledge. Unlike a car, which depreciates the moment it leaves the dealership, or clothes that lose their shine over time, what you learn multiplies and continues generating fruits forever. When you choose to apply part of your salary to learning, you're planting a seed that grows every day. A course, a book, training, a lecture, each one opens doors that previously seemed locked. Often, the difference between those who remain trapped in a single salary and those who achieve financial freedom isn't in how much they earn today, but in how much they were willing to learn and apply. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It needs to be put into practice. This is where the second part comes in, creating multiple sources of income. Relying only on salary is like depending on a single pillar to support an entire house. One crisis, one dismissal, or one health problem is enough for everything to collapse. But when you build several sources, even small ones, you gain stability and confidence. Maybe start by selling something simple online, renting out a space in your house, investing in stocks that pay dividends, or creating a small side business. At first, it may seem like little, but over time, these small flows add up and begin to relieve dependence on salary. Suddenly that extra income covers an electricity bill, then rent, and in a few years it could represent your freedom. This is the strategy used by ordinary people who became financially independent. They didn't wait to earn fortunes to invest. On the contrary, they started small with discipline and multiplied what they had. And it all started with a simple decision: to stop spending just to consume and use part of what they earn, to learn and create new forms of income. Salary alone can be fragile, but knowledge and multiple sources of income transform that salary into a solid ladder that takes you to increasingly higher levels. Most people view the word debt as something bad, heavy, capable of destroying families and keeping them awake at night. And indeed, poorly used debt can be poison. However, there's a big difference between what we call bad debt and good debt. Understanding this difference is one of the keys to transforming your salary into wealth. Bad debt is that contracted to feed consumption. The credit card maxed out on dinners, clothes, trips that didn't fit in the budget. These are debts that return nothing and only drain the future, forcing you to work more and more to pay for the past. It's like digging a hole and continuing to throw dirt into it without realizing you're burying yourself. Good debt has a strategic purpose: acquiring assets that generate income. Imagine someone who takes a loan not to buy a luxury car, but to invest in a small property that will be rented. In this case, the debt works in favor because each installment is being paid by the asset's return. Or think of an entrepreneur who seeks credit to expand a business that already makes profit and that, with the investment, will yield even more. This is financial intelligence, transforming debts into tools, not traps. But it's not just about debts. The focus is on protecting and multiplying money through real and lasting assets. Assets are what put money in your pocket. Stocks that pay dividends, rental properties, own businesses, investments that beat inflation. These are shields against money's loss of value, which every month suffers from silent devaluation. Those who understand this begin to look at every real differently. Instead of asking, "What can I buy with this money now?" they start asking, "How can this money work for me going forward?" It's this change that separates those who always live chasing bills from those who build solid and time-resistant wealth. The secret isn't avoiding all debt, but using it wisely, and at the same time protecting yourself from inflation and loss of value by investing in assets that not only preserve, but also increase wealth. There's a common mistake that imprisons thousands of people, living for appearances, buying to show off, spending to impress, flaunting to be accepted. It's as if money were used not to build security, but to erect a throne where the person sits only to be applauded. The problem is that this throne is fragile. One crisis or life change is enough for everything to collapse. True financial freedom doesn't need applause. It happens in silence. It's that bank account that grows without being displayed. It's the investment that generates income every month without anyone knowing. It's the discipline that transforms small habits into great achievements. Silent freedom is discreet but powerful because it doesn't depend on others' approval. Here comes the ladder mentality. Salary isn't a final prize nor a trophy to display. It's just a step on a ladder that should take you to higher levels. Each right decision, each investment, each saved amount works as one more step in this climb. And the more you advance, the more solid becomes the structure that supports your life. Those who only seek the throne end up trapped in an endless cycle. They need to spend more to appear successful, need to work more to sustain this image, and in the end are always exhausted and empty. But those who adopt the ladder mentality understand that progress doesn't need to be displayed. It's built with patience, discipline, and constancy, until the day when freedom is no longer a dream, but a reality. This is the key. Don't live to prove anything to anyone. Use salary as a tool, not as a medal. Climb the ladder at your own pace, in silence, with discipline. In the future, those who once sought applause will be tired, and you'll be living peacefully with independence and dignity. There's a clear difference between those who just receive a salary and those who transform that salary into a life project. The key is developing an owner's mentality. Most people view their job as a limited exchange. I give my time, receive payment, and that's it. But those who think like owners see beyond. Even as employees, they take responsibility for their own future. They don't blame the government, the boss, or the economy. They understand that while external factors exist, building freedom depends on how each payment is used. This mentality changes everything. Instead of spending every cent, those who think like owners treat salary as a construction tool. Each portion is allocated with purpose. One part to live today, another to invest, another to create new sources of income. It's as if each payment were a brick placed in the foundation of a solid and lasting house. Being an owner in this sense doesn't necessarily mean opening a company. It means acting as a protagonist. It's making conscious choices, seeking knowledge, not accepting stagnation. It's thinking like someone who manages a small personal enterprise where the main resource is one's own salary. This attitude also generates respect. In the workplace, those who think like owners stand out. They deliver more, learn more, create opportunities. This can result in promotions, better salaries, and even partnerships. But the real gain goes beyond. It's the feeling of being in control, of not being hostage to circumstances, but author of one's own story. In the end, the owner's mentality makes each payment not just a passing reward, but a seed of independence. With discipline, vision, and courage, salary stops being a chain and becomes the key that opens the doors of freedom. When we talk about financial freedom, many people think they need a big stroke of luck, an unexpected inheritance, or a business that succeeds overnight. But the truth is different. True wealth building happens in consistency. It's the small acts repeated month after month that change a person's destiny. Think of someone who saves $50 every month. It seems little, almost insignificant. But in 10 years, This habit already represents thousands, not counting the returns this money can generate when invested. The detail is that most give up because they find the beginning too small. And that's exactly where the difference lies. Those who persist harvesting little by little are those who, in the future, harvest abundantly. Consistency also means not letting emotions dominate. It's not because the month was tight that you should give up your saving habit. It's not because a spending opportunity seems tempting that you should break your discipline. Constancy creates deep roots that sustain any tree, even in storms. It's like planting a seed. You don't dig every day to see if it's growing. You simply water, care for, and wait. Wealth works the same way. It's silent, discreet, but powerful. And when the fruit appears, it's too big to be ignored. One of the biggest enemies of financial freedom isn't lack of money, but the habit of living by comparing yourself to others. How many times have you looked at your neighbor's car, a co-worker's trip, or a relative's house and thought, I need to have this too? This silent thought is capable of sabotaging years of effort. Comparison creates a dangerous cycle. You start spending not for what you need, but to prove something. You buy things to show you're at the same level, even if it means getting into debt. And what's most curious is that often those people who seem to live better are as trapped in debts and worries as those trying to imitate them. The secret is understanding that each journey is unique. What works for one may not serve another. The neighbor may have a new car, but maybe doesn't have any emergency reserve. The colleague may travel every year, but maybe is paying installments that will take a decade to finish. Comparing yourself is entering a race with no finish line, where the only certainty is fatigue. When you decide to look only at your own path, something powerful happens. You start making choices that really matter for your life. If you need to invest, you invest. If you need to save, you save. If you need to give up a superfluous expense, you do it without feeling you're losing in relation to others. Because deep down, the one who's winning is you. True freedom isn't surpassing others, but surpassing yourself, month after month. We live in a time when everything seems immediate. Food arrives in minutes, messages are answered in seconds, products are delivered in a few hours. This habit of wanting everything for yesterday ended up contaminating the way we deal with money too. Many want to get rich quickly, without effort, believing in miraculous promises. But true wealth isn't built like that. It's the fruit of patience and long-term vision. When you plant a tree, you don't expect fruit the next day. First, it creates roots, then grows slowly, and only much later begins to bear abundant fruit. Money works the same way. Investments grow slowly at first, almost imperceptible. But with discipline and time, they begin to generate results that seem almost magical. The problem is that those who think only short-term give up early. They sell an investment at the first sign of decline, abandon savings when they seem too small, change course whenever something requires patience. And by doing so, they lose precisely the most rewarding phase, the harvest. Long-term mentality teaches that each step today, however small, can completely transform tomorrow. 10, 15 years may seem like a long time, but they pass in the blink of an eye. And when that time comes, those who had patience are harvesting fruits, while the impatient continue chasing the next shortcut. Therefore, when dealing with your salary, don't think only about the current month. Ask yourself, what can this decision today represent 5, 10, or 20 years from now? This simple question changes your entire perspective. Many people believe they need to always be motivated to change their lives. But motivation is like the wind. It appears strong on some days, disappears on others. If you depend on it to act, you'll only advance when you feel like it, and you'll never get far. True transformation comes from discipline. Discipline is what makes you save part of your salary, even when bills seem tight. It's what makes you study instead of spending hours in front of the television. It's what keeps your reserve growing month after month, even when no one is watching. It's a silent commitment to the future, much stronger than any momentary impulse. Think of athletes who train every day. They don't always wake up excited, but discipline puts them in motion. The result? Medals, achievements, recognition. Money works the same way. You don't need to always be motivated, but consistent. Discipline also protects you against emotional traps. When a purchase temptation arises, it's discipline that holds your hand. When haste screams for a shortcut, it's discipline that reminds you that the right path is slower but safer. Motivation can get you to start, but only discipline ensures you reach the end. And here's the great truth. Those who act with discipline reap results even when they don't feel like it. And when the fruits appear, motivation returns with even more force, creating a positive cycle that never ends. Money by itself doesn't solve everything. It's just an instrument, a tool. If used incorrectly, it can imprison, feed vanities, and create a life of empty appearances. But when aligned with a purpose, money transforms into something much greater, into a means of realizing dreams, generating impact, and giving meaning to one's own journey. Having purpose is understanding that every cent saved, invested, and multiplied has a clear destination. It could be ensuring family tranquility, offering quality education to children, building a dignified retirement, or even financing projects that help other people. It's purpose that gives energy to continue even in moments when everything seems difficult. Without purpose, money slips through your hands. It's lost in superfluous expenses, impulse purchases, momentary pleasures that soon disappear. But when there's clarity about where you want to go, each financial choice takes on a different weight. You stop spending to impress and start spending to advance. In the end, true wealth isn't just accumulating assets, but using money to live a life coherent with what matters to you. Purpose is the compass that transforms numbers into meaning, and that gives real value to each financial achievement. This doesn't mean despising money, but using it intelligently. It's choosing to invest in assets instead of accumulating liabilities. It's spending consciously, guided by objectives and not by comparisons. It's transforming every reel into a seed that grows and multiplies, instead of letting it escape in passing pleasures. When money is put in the right place, as a tool, not as a master, you discover something powerful, the feeling of autonomy. You no longer live to satisfy bills and momentary desires, but to realize projects, build legacy, and live according to what really matters. This is the turning point. Money no longer possesses you. You're the one who directs it. And in this position of control, life stops being a survival race and becomes a conscious walk toward freedom. Many people believe that to change their lives, they need a giant turnaround, winning the lottery, receiving an inheritance, opening a millionaire business. But the truth is that transformation rarely happens in a single step. It's born from small daily adjustments, almost invisible, that over time accumulate and create an enormous impact. Reducing that unnecessary expense, renegotiating a debt to pay less interest, investing a modest amount every month, dedicating just half an hour a day to learn something new. Each simple decision is like a brick placed in building your freedom. At first, it seems little, but after a few months, you realize you're already much further from the starting point. These adjustments also have a psychological power. They show you're in control. Instead of feeling hostage to salary, you begin to perceive that each choice shapes your future. And this creates real motivation because you see results happening before your eyes. In the end, the big change doesn't happen suddenly. It's built silently, in the small decisions no one sees, but that in the future everyone will notice. After this entire journey, it becomes clear that salary isn't the villain nor the hero of your financial life. It's just a tool. The difference lies in how you decide to use it. For some, it becomes a chain that traps in debts, comparisons, and consumption without purpose. For others, it transforms into a key that opens doors to freedom, security, and dignity. You saw that freedom begins when we learn to separate consumption from investment, when we create an invisible reserve that gives us tranquility, when we buy time instead of objects, when we invest in knowledge and build multiple sources of income. You also understood that using debt strategically, living in silence instead of seeking approval, and adopting an owner's mentality makes all the difference. And the compliments reinforce the message. Consistency is more powerful than speed. Each journey is unique and shouldn't be compared. Long-term vision beats haste. Discipline sustains when motivation fails. Purpose gives meaning to money, and small daily adjustments build great results. Deep down, the question that remains is simple but decisive. Will you let your salary be the chain that keeps you trapped, or the key that opens your freedom? If this reflection made sense to you, I want to invite you to take the next step. Leave your like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can build a community of people who transform salary into freedom, not prison.